Admiral, today we're talking about the value and impact when we, as leaders, remain calm and keep our composure. When we talked before, you shared with me a story about when you were a young ensign that remains actually one of the most captivating I heard from the 51 four-star officers that I've interviewed. Can you set the stage and share that story with us? Because it really leads wonderfully into today's topic.
Sure, happy to. I think the story you're referring to was when I was a young officer on my first ship. The Coast Guard was then responsible for manning what we called ocean stations, which were points of water across the Atlantic that facilitated safety for first and foremost for sailors that were plying those waters, and secondly for trans-Atlantic aircraft as they left the continent of Europe or Africa and came to the United States. They went over these waypoints, and we became basically points on a map for them, so they could assure themselves that they were going where they wanted to be and hopefully end up where they wanted to end up. So in the middle of that, on one occasion, this was in February of 1965, the North Atlantic Ocean was basically upside down. There was a huge set of storms. Actually,
Squalls.
these were dramatically more than squalls. These were hurricane kind of experiences. Right. And for anybody that's a sailor at all, or has even thought about being on the ocean in the middle of one of those, you can imagine the sea state was, we were facing 30 to 40-foot seas, and we were constantly facing that as this set of storms went by. And on one occasion, our chore as being on that ocean station was to make certain that we were where we were supposed to be, so those transatlantic aircraft could actually identify us as being in the right place. On this one occasion, we were at the one end of our patrol area and had to make the turn in these 40-foot seas to go back to the other end of this simple line on the map that took us from a point at the northeast end to the point on the southwest end, and turned around and went back into it because the swell system was basically out of the northeast. And so on this occasion, I had done it before. We had made this turn on my watch before, but as I was at a porthole on the front end of the bridge, timing my effort, because it was a twin-screwed ship, so I had to accelerate the engine on the outboard side of the turn that I was about to make, reduce the turns on the inboard side to accelerate a spin, if you will, of the ship through the turn to go back down swell. And my captain on my ship was a guy named Jack Forrester. Jack Forrester had been literally on the bridge for about 2 days without either. He slept a little bit in the so-called captain's chair on the bridge. He had been served, minimum meals in that chair. But his self-appointed duties as the safety overseer was to ensure that his ship, when he was the captain, was going to be safely navigated by the guys like me who were young officers on watch. And so as we were about to make this turn, I was glued to the porthole, which was dead center on the front of the bridge, so as to make the timing appropriate. I reached back to the engine order telegraph to accelerate that outboard shaft like I just described to you. And before I could accelerate that outboard shaft, a hand came down over my hand, picked it up, and put it on the correct engine order telegraph. In other words, I had given a command to the helmsman to turn the ship to port, and I was accelerating the wrong shaft that would have actually competed with that command. And so for me that night, it was, he never said a word. Captain Forrester never said a word. He just picked up my hand and put it over on the other engine order telegraph to make sure we executed the turn safely at that moment. An extraordinary, nobody else on the bridge ever knew what was going on. I mean, there were probably 8 or 10 additional watchstanders on the bridge with their responsibilities. None of them ever knew what was going on. And Captain Forrester's calm, deliberate demeanor in the midst of this nightmare, to have not only the presence of mind to not be screaming his head off at me, but further to just ensure the safety of the vessel by sort of pretending nothing had ever happened. He just picked up my hand, put it on the right EOT. I accelerated it properly. The turn was made very safely, and off we went in the opposite direction. So for me, the lessons of leadership learned in the midst of all of that stuck with me literally for the rest of my 40 years in the Coast Guard. My opportunities thereafter for commanding my own ships were abetted by that memory literally for the rest of my seagoing career, and really for the rest of my life. Because it says, in the midst of the storm, those who remain calm and collected and focus on the work to be done are those that we all pay attention to and in my case, emulate for the rest of your
Mhm.
life. And so that story is one that will live with me forever, as you can
Yeah.
imagine. And it's just one that I think taught me so much at a very early time in my career about what leadership was all about. Leadership in this instance was all about mission focus, getting the job
Mhm.
done, getting the job done safely, and beyond that, not embarrassing this poor dumb ensign that had his hand on the wrong engine order telegraph handle.